Liam, Ava, Noah, and Grace thought their weekend camping trip would be their last adventure before college, but when their camera was found buried in the dirt and they never returned home, investigators uncovered footage of a mysterious man watching them from the shadows, turning a carefree getaway into one of the most chilling unsolved cases in Maple Ridge. Liam had always been the planner of the group. It was his idea to spend one last weekend together before college, away from city noise and endless distractions. He convinced his friends Ava, Noah, and Grace to join him on a camping trip in the Maple Ridge Forest, a quiet stretch of land surrounded by tall pines and winding rivers. The forest was beautiful, but had a strange reputation among locals. People whispered about strange lights at night and voices echoing through the trees. The four teens laughed off the stories, eager for a bit of adventure before life pulled them in different directions. They packed their tents, food, and camera gear, setting off early on Saturday morning. The road was long and narrow, bordered by thick woods that seemed to swallow the sunlight. When they arrived, they found a clearing beside a calm river, perfect for camping. They pitched their tents, built a fire, and recorded short clips for their social media page. The air smelled of pine and earth, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. As night fell, the forest came alive with sounds: the distant cry of an owl, rustling leaves, the faint trickle of the river nearby. It was peaceful, yet something about the stillness felt heavier than usual, like the woods were holding their breath. The next morning, Liam's parents expected a text from him. It never came. By evening, none of the teens had called home. Their families waited, growing anxious as the sun disappeared behind the trees. When night passed with no word, calls were made to authorities. Search teams were sent out, combing through the trails and riverside areas. The first day turned up nothing but empty ground and a few footprints. On the second day, the rescuers found the group's campsite. Tents were torn open as if pulled apart in a hurry, food containers scattered across the ground, and a half-burned fire still smoldering faintly. Everything looked chaotic, but there was no sign of a struggle or footprints leading away. Only one clue remained: a damaged camera buried halfway in the dirt near the riverbank. Its screen was cracked, but the memory card inside was intact. Investigators took it, hoping it might reveal what had happened. In that moment, the forest fell silent again, and the search team could not shake the eerie feeling that the teens had simply vanished into the trees, swallowed by the same woods that had once seemed so inviting. The camera became the center of the investigation. Detectives played the footage in a dark room at the local police station, hoping it would explain the teens' disappearance. The first few clips were harmless: Liam setting up a tent, Ava joking while holding a flashlight under her chin, Noah collecting firewood, and Grace showing off the view of the river. Their laughter filled the small space as the detectives watched, a bittersweet reminder of how normal the trip had begun. Then, as the recordings continued, the tone shifted. Around midnight, the footage showed the campfire burning low while the group sat in a circle. Something flickered in the background between the trees, a faint movement that none of them seemed to notice. A few minutes later, the camera captured what looked like a human silhouette standing just beyond the light of the fire. The figure didn't move, only watched. The teens continued talking, unaware they were being observed. As the detectives reviewed more clips, that same figure appeared again and again, always in the distance, never close enough to see clearly. The group mentioned strange noises at one point: branches snapping, leaves crunching, but brushed it off as animals. The final video was the most disturbing. It started with the camera lying sideways on the ground, recording the dark shapes of trees against the night sky. The fire had burned out, and all that could be heard was heavy breathing and the faint sound of footsteps. Then a hand reached toward the lens, covering it completely before the video cut off. The footage ended there. There were no screams, no signs of struggle, only silence. Detectives extracted still frames from the videos, trying to identify the shadowy figure. Though the image was blurry, one thing was clear: it was not one of the teens. The outline was tall, with broad shoulders and an uneven posture, as if the person had been injured or carrying something heavy. When news of the footage spread, it caused panic in the small town of Maple Ridge. People began sharing rumors about a strange man living deep in the woods, someone they'd seen wandering near hiking trails before dusk. Police increased patrols and asked anyone with information to come forward. For the first time, they had a lead, though no one could predict just how dark the truth behind that blurry image would become. Days after the footage was released, the town of Maple Ridge seemed to change overnight. The quiet streets buzzed with fear and speculation. People spoke in hushed voices about a stranger who had been seen lurking near the forest for months. Some said he camped behind an abandoned ranger station. Others swore they'd spotted him near the gas station on the edge of town, muttering to himself and collecting empty bottles. No one knew his name, but everyone called him the random man. He didn't talk to anyone, never asked for money, and always disappeared before the police could arrive. Detectives began connecting reports from years past. Several hikers had gone missing in nearby areas, their cases never solved. A few campers had claimed to feel watched at night, describing the same uneasy feeling the teens had recorded in their videos. Now, those accounts suddenly seemed connected. The man was always described in the same way: middle-aged, tall, with messy hair and a rough beard. His clothes were torn, and his shoes didn't match. The police started combing the forest again, searching for any trace of him. A team of officers found what looked like an old campsite deep in the woods. The ashes of a long-dead fire sat in a circle of stones. There were food wrappers, torn blankets, and an old backpack filled with canned goods. Nearby, they found empty bottles of water and a rusted hunting knife. Everything looked abandoned, as if whoever had stayed there had left in a hurry. Footprints led away from the campsite, but faded into the rocky ground before anyone could follow. Forensic experts examined the items and discovered faint fingerprints on the knife handle, but they didn't match any records. That only deepened the mystery. The police believed the man had been living off the land for years, avoiding civilization. What they didn't know was why he watched people from the shadows or why he seemed drawn to campers. As investigators searched further, they began finding signs that someone still roamed the forest. Fresh footprints appeared after rain, and once, a trail camera set up by park rangers captured the faint image of a man walking barefoot at night. He was heading toward the same area where Liam, Ava, Noah, and Grace had disappeared, proving that whoever he was, he hadn't gone far. Winter came early that year, and with it, a new lead emerged. A hunter from a nearby town reported finding a small cabin deep in the forest, a place not marked on any map. He claimed he had stumbled upon it while tracking deer and felt uneasy as soon as he saw it. The cabin looked old, almost hidden beneath layers of moss and overgrown branches. When police arrived, the front door was unlocked, creaking as they stepped inside. Dust floated in the air, and the faint smell of smoke and damp wood lingered. The interior looked like someone had lived there for a long time, but left in a hurry. On a small table, investigators found several personal items: a cracked compass, a flashlight with dying batteries, and a stack of photographs. When they looked closer, they realized the photos were of people: hikers, families, campers, all taken from a distance. Some were recent, others faded and weathered. Among them were pictures of Liam, Ava, Noah, and Grace. The teens were smiling near their tent, completely unaware that someone had been watching. That discovery sent a chill through everyone in the room. Further searches uncovered a wooden box hidden under a loose floorboard. Inside were more items: Grace's bracelet, Noah's hoodie, Ava's backpack, and Liam's broken phone. Each belonging confirmed that the missing teens had been there. The evidence pointed to one man, Thomas Heller, a former forest guide who had vanished nearly a decade earlier. His name appeared in old police reports connected to trespassing and disturbing behavior. After losing his job and home, he had disappeared without a trace. Forensics confirmed that the fingerprints found at the teens' campsite matched those on the items inside the cabin. The revelation shocked the community. News outlets flooded Maple Ridge, calling Heller a possible serial stalker who had been hiding in plain sight. Still, there was something strange: no evidence of violence, no signs of bodies, no clear indication of what had happened to the teens after that night. It was as if they had been swallowed by the forest itself. As investigators searched the area around the cabin, they found a series of hand-carved symbols on nearby trees. No one could explain their meaning, but all pointed deeper into the woods, as if marking a path that led somewhere no one had dared to go. Thomas Heller was finally found weeks later, wandering near an abandoned railway miles from Maple Ridge. He was thin, sunburned, and disoriented, carrying only a torn map and a small tin of food. When questioned, he seemed confused and distant, claiming he hadn't hurt anyone. He said he had lived alone in the forest for years, keeping watch over people who entered it. He insisted that the teens were alive when he last saw them, that they had gone somewhere the forest didn't want them to leave. His words made little sense, and investigators couldn't tell if he was lying or simply unstable. Without physical evidence connecting him directly to the deaths, Heller was not charged with murder, only held for questioning. The police searched every inch of the woods around his cabin, finding more signs of his long isolation: makeshift traps, small shelters, and animal bones. Yet there was still nothing that proved what had happened to Liam, Ava, Noah, and Grace. Locals grew restless, demanding answers, but the case began to stall. Reporters called it one of the strangest disappearances in Maple Ridge's history. Months passed, and just when everyone thought the mystery had reached its end, a plain brown envelope arrived at the police station. Inside was an unlabeled memory card. Detectives opened it carefully, unsure of what they would find. The footage began with the familiar clearing where the teens had camped. The camera angle was different this time, farther away, hidden behind a large rock. The group could be seen laughing and moving around the fire, completely unaware they were being watched. Then, as the camera zoomed slightly, a faint reflection revealed the watcher's face. It was Thomas Heller. The timestamp matched the night the teens disappeared, confirming that he had indeed been there. Yet even with that proof, the video didn't show what happened afterward. The recording ended abruptly, leaving behind only more questions. Heller continued to deny harming anyone, saying he had seen something else take them. His claim was dismissed as delusion, but some investigators couldn't shake the eerie feeling that something about his words was true. The case eventually went cold. The forest of Maple Ridge remained quiet, but hikers often said they felt watched when passing the old trails. Some reported hearing faint laughter at night, fading into the wind echoes of four friends who never came home.